Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you happen to be watching this. I hope you're all having a good day. And if you miss class because of illness or other reasons, I hope to see you in class on the next class period. Today, we're going to talk about usage. A lot of this might be reminders of things I've said before or the tips I have put at the bottom of assignments, but I thought I would spend some time just running through some random musings about usage, stuff you thought you left behind in high school, but things that are still necessary for you as writers in a composition class or for any papers you're going to have to do throughout your university career. We're going to begin with the idea that grammar and usage is all around you. And there are lots of ways, and I just probably made one of the mistakes right there with the word lots, that people make mistakes. The me and that is ubiquitous in common speech. I don't think I notice it very often when people write, but remember, it should be Steve and I, not me and Steve. And then we have the affect and effect on the bottom left-hand panel. Remember that effect is usually the noun, the one that begins with E. Affect, the one that begins with A, is usually the verb. The there, and there, and specific versus pacific, which is usually a pronunciation error. I rarely see that in writing. Still, there are many ways that one can mess up usage, and let's look at some of the common ones. I hope this slide has a bit of humor, or this presentation has a bit of humor. I hope this slide was a little funny as well. I think it's important to remember that someone will always want to show off and correct you. If you look at the uh, panels on the right here, you'll notice that warehouse should be one word, and so it should be W6, not WH6. Somebody's always there. Somebody's always going to be trying to correct you. However, I do believe that we should be careful as we write. And you're going to see three slides kind of making the same point. First, as we look at the little meme here on screen, you'll see that you've got Batman saying, because I'm Batman. It's one of the logical fallacies. It's an appeal to authority. In this case, Batman is appealing to himself. You will also see a usage error here. Reason is because. Reason is because is phrasing that should never be used. And let me try to give you some reasons that it should never be used. First of all, it's a redundancy. If you see the famous meme here about, Batman slapping Robin, you'll notice that the reason mass is proportional to gravity is because. That reason and because is a redundancy. According to theory, the reason mass is proportional to gravity is that everything with mass emits tiny particles, or according to theory, mass is proportional to gravity because one never needs reason and because in the same clause, in the same sentence. The next thing I want to talk about is contractions are evil. I believe in a formal essay, one should always have would have, should have, could have. I believe also that one of the problems that people have is that because of contractions and how Americans speak, we have the would have, could have, should have, and so we write would of, could of, should of, instead of would have, could have, should have. Therefore, I believe contractions are evil, and I think one should be careful about putting them in the paper, and in fact, in formal papers, write out the word have. The Oxford comma. I'm a firm believer in the Oxford comma, which is the final comma coming before the list of things. And let me give you a quick example. I still use the Oxford comma. I bought Diet Coke, peanut butter, and chocolate. Diet Coke, comma, peanut butter, comma, and chocolate, comma. Three separate things. If you don't have the Oxford comma, it's entirely possible that you bought Diet Coke, peanut butter, and chocolate, which means you bought Diet Coke and a Reese's bar. The Oxford comma is necessary to indicate what's in the list and what isn't. Some usage guides say you no longer need the Oxford comma on the list. I'm a firm believer you do. Make sure that you have it just to clarify everything in the list. Comma splices. I have written this in hundreds of the daily writings. I've written this in a lot of papers. Commas cannot link independent clauses or split independent clauses. Use a period. If the clauses are closely related, use a semicolon or use a comma in a coordinating conjunction. If you look at the meme, I promise you, no matter what, I will never be your friend and I will never forgive you and I will hate you for the rest of your life. You need the comma in the coordinating conjunction. You need the some kind of period someplace. Be careful about having sentences that run on without proper punctuation. I've screamed and shouted over and over that one should have concrete nouns, nouns that appeal, that you can reach out and touch, nouns that have a sense to them, avoiding things like concepts and reality or whatever other vague words there are. But I think also avoiding the words like very, avoiding the words like somewhat, avoiding the words like one of, um, trying to get rid of the linking verbs and write with action verbs, trying to get rid of the ly adverbs and having a specific verb. He ran quickly versus he sprinted, those sorts of things. And I'm just going to repeat that in here because it's one of the things that I have pushed hard. Avoid having the varies, avoid having the adverbs when you can have a concrete or when you can have an action verb that does the job. Be specific, be concrete. It's a reminder. I've hammered this a lot, but again, in a usage section, in a grammar section, I want to bring it home one more time. Essays aren't a text. The gonna, the wanna, the kinda. I speak that way. I should be more precise. But in general, one should minimize the going to, the want to, the kind of. And certainly, as I have indicated several times, avoid you unless you are speaking directly to a specific reader. Okay? So if you minimize the going to, the want to, the kind of, if you get rid of all of those, you will not have the gonna, the wanna, the kinda, the sort of texting language that you need to get rid of. If you remember that you should not use you unless you are speaking directly to a specific reader, and you remember that essays aren't a text, then you will not use the letter U for the word you because you won't have very many opportunities to do so. The word do, the word get, the word things, the word stuff. They are not very specific. I don't get it doesn't help anyone understand what the problem is with whatever someone is trying to teach or whatever someone is trying to illustrate. Stuff. I don't know if you mean stuff something into a bag. I don't know if you mean the stuff I am talking about in class. I don't know if you mean that it's time to stuff your face with an afternoon snack. Things. Nouns are person, places, things, and idea. I don't know which noun you're referring to. Please, concrete language. And if you, the word do and the word get and the word things and the word stuff, all of those have more specific verbs or more specific nouns that you can use in the sentence. Again, concrete nouns, action verbs are keys to good writing. At the same time, use the thesaurus wisely. To be gratuitously loquacious will probably obfuscate. I've talked several times about avoiding the big words. Don't try to use big words for the sake of using big words. Okay? Be clear. Be clear. The unnecessary use of flowery language is likely to confuse the listener and interfere with understanding. Perfect. It makes the point. It has a lot of simple one word or one syllable words in it. The two syllable words are all understandable. Your job as a writer is to communicate meaning. Your job as a writer is not to impress your reader with your ability to use fancy words. On the other hand, know that farther is for distance, further is for imaginary, or not imaginary, but further is for things that cannot be measured. The who's, who is, WHO apostrophe S, and again, contractions are evil. Okay. It goes far, might work, but he's certainly not ingenious. Okay. And it cannot be most unique or more unique. It's either unique or it isn't. Um, and humans who drive cars, not which drive cars. And I probably missed a few of them in there. You cannot make dozens of little mistakes. Death by 1,000 paper cuts is still death. And finally, your weekly reminder. It should be short, not shallow. Make every word tell. We saw an eagle, by its very nature, should be much more impressive than we saw the most amazing thing yesterday when we were walking by Barbara's house. You know, the beige, and I don't even have the energy to keep going. We saw an eagle. Short, not shallow. Every word was there to tell. Again, I hope you're all having a good day. Please, please, please remember that all of these images were stolen from the web for educational purposes, and that in your papers, you have to cite your sources better than I did. Hope everyone's having a great start to the week as I'm recording this on a Monday. Hope to see all of you in class. And again, I hope that everyone remembers that writing is all about communication, and the purpose of communication is to convey meaning and understanding. Have a good one.